Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit more shorter-term technical analysis on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets because, guys, in today's video, we need to keep talking about this rally that Bitcoin has been in here for the last couple of weeks because, guys, as we can see, Bitcoin is actually testing resistance at $9,400 at the moment, and it seems that Bitcoin might actually be rejecting off of it. As you can see, we came up to the top of this resistance zone that we've been looking at for a few days right over here, and we rejected off of it. We came back up to it again, and we rejected off of it, and now we've come up to it a third time, and we rejected even harder off of it. Things aren't actually looking all that good for Bitcoin here. Bitcoin might not be able to get through $9,400, interestingly enough. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at the technical indicators and seeing what they say about whether or not Bitcoin is destined to actually continue this rally, or if Bitcoin is actually going to have a bit of a correction. I want to show you a couple of chart patterns, a couple of our oscillators, and what they all have to say. So we're going to be discussing all of that and more in today's video, but I also want to bring up Litecoin and discuss what's going on with Litecoin. You guys know that I was looking to get into a position on Litecoin, but Litecoin has unfortunately failed me. So we'll do a little bit more Litecoin technical analysis at the end of the video. You guys were telling me in the comment section that you were very much looking forward to some more Litecoin TA, so I will give the people what they want, and we will do some more Litecoin technical analysis at the end of the video. From there, guys, we're also going to be diving into some news about Facebook's new cryptocurrency, Libra Coin. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know if they want it to be pronounced Libra or Libra Coin, probably Libra. This is a very big development for the cryptocurrency space. Facebook has launched their own cryptocurrency called Libra Coin in their new app called Calibra. Very big development. We'll be discussing that later. Big win for adoption for cryptocurrency in the blockchain industry. But guys, we're going to dive right on into the video. But before we do, I do want to remind you that we are still running that sale on the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. That will be wrapping up tomorrow. So if you guys want to join CT2A and learn how to trade these markets, learn how to analyze these markets, and most importantly, learn how to profit in these markets, because we all know what the next couple of years are going to bring for Bitcoin now that a bull market has started. The most important thing that you can have on your side is information. You need to know how to read these markets. You need to know how to trade them. And that's what we teach here in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. You can check out what we have to offer with the first link in the description. And if you're interested, use the coupon code JUNE2019 to get $40 off at checkout. You can join the 600 plus people who have already joined us in CT2A. Like I said, this is going to be wrapping up tomorrow. So if you've been interested in joining, go ahead. Now's your time. We have a full refund policy if you don't like the course. Anyway, guys, without much further ado, let's go ahead and dive right on into the video. So the first thing I want to do is point out how Bitcoin is testing this resistance over and over and over again. And one thing I talk about in one of the videos here in CT2A is gauging the strength of support and resistance. And in that video, I talk about how important it is to see how Bitcoin is testing resistance. It's not just about Bitcoin testing resistance, it's how Bitcoin is testing resistance. What does Bitcoin do when it tests that resistance? Does it go up and test it once and then reject from it and then never go back up and test it again? If so, that's pretty major resistance. A good example of that would be $20,000 on Bitcoin back last year, actually the end of the year before that in 2017. Bitcoin only had the strength to get up to 20K once, but I would say that if Bitcoin came up to $20,000 and did this number and kept trading against 20K, eventually would have probably broken it. That's what happened at $6,000. Bitcoin came down and tested this level of support time and time and time again. And eventually, because we kept testing it, obviously, we eventually broke it. And Bitcoin did go below $6,000. We got back up above it, but because Bitcoin kept testing it, we got below it. So one of the things I often talk about in technical analysis and in the course as well is that when you have a market trade against a level of resistance or support over and over and over and over and over again, it goes up here and tests resistance, does it again and again and again and again and again and again. If this were to go on like 10 times, then you're probably eventually going to break that resistance level, simply because the bulls in this case have the strength to go up and test the level of resistance over and over and over and over and over again. So eventually they're probably going to have the strength to actually get through it if they have the strength to even continue that assault. They're going to win the war of attrition against the bears around that level of resistance. And I want to point out that I don't necessarily think this is the same case. One, because Bitcoin has only tested this once, twice, 3 times, and we're getting a rejection. If Bitcoin does come up here and start testing this again and again and again, we'll probably get through it. But I want to point out a bit of a difference between what I just talked about testing resistance over and over again, and what we're looking at right now. Because, guys, I want to show this to you. This is not a head and shoulders pattern. I'm not saying that, but it has a similar style to it where we have one shoulder and then we have a taller head and then we have a weaker shoulder. And what that kind of means is that we have our first top up here, which is low. We have our second top, which is a little bit higher, and then our third top, which is a little bit lower if we're looking at the candle body and not the wicks. If we look at it like that, then Bitcoin has actually gotten a bit of a rejection here. And as we can see, it fell over and we had a little bit of a recovery from the bulls and not much actually came of it. Bitcoin fell back over. Now, of course, this is on the hourly chart. This was happening at at 6 in the morning Eastern time. It's now 9:06 in the morning Eastern time. You'll be watching this around 10 a.m. if you watch it during the premiere. So Bitcoin hasn't had a lot of time. But if Bitcoin doesn't come back up here to this resistance, then obviously it's going to be very difficult for us to break through it because Bitcoin didn't even go up to it. So I'm thinking that this might actually turn into a bearish pattern, but we're going to keep doing some TA and see what comes of it. Now that's the bullish case, guys. It's hard for me to explain exactly why I feel a little bit bearish about this pattern. I'll go ahead and tell you that it does have a lot to do with gut feeling. That's one of the things we do talk about in the course, is sometimes your gut is going to tell you something that the market or the chart is not. And sometimes it will literally save your life out in the real world if you listen to that gut feeling. I have stories about that I could tell you about where it's literally saved my life if you actually listen to what your gut's telling you. And if you can train your gut to tell you the right thing about markets, it's a very powerful skill. That's why I love this video in the course and why I think it's been so helpful to so many people. And that's kind of what's telling me about this. But let's dive into the technicals and see what they have to say. One thing I want to do is, now that we've seen this triangle pattern that we were looking at continue for another day, and we kind of broke out of it, but it was kind of a half-hearted breakout. Not much of it actually came of it. If we go ahead and redraw this, what we're going to see is Bitcoin is actually in a rising trading channel here, or actually kind of a rising wedge, depending on how you want to look at it. These two are converging on themselves, so I guess it'd be more of a wedge. But Bitcoin entering this position could actually be bullish, contrary to what I was saying a second ago, because Bitcoin's coming up here like this. And a lot of times, guys, markets will break bearish out of a pattern like this, and that is a very big possibility. But also, since I like to play devil's advocate against myself to give you guys both positions of the story, I also want to show you what happened back during 2017, because something very similar to this happened back during this market over here. We saw Bitcoin was rallying all the way up to 20K. Let me give you a little bit of perspective where we are. This is where we are. It's 20K up here. If we look in right here, we saw this happen a couple of times where Bitcoin would have this kind of massive wedge form right here with a level of resistance right there and an uptrend of support right there. Kind of what we're looking at right now, a rising wedge. And because the bulls were so strong, Bitcoin used what would a lot of times be a bearish pattern and turn it into a bullish one. We saw the exact same thing form later with resistance and support right there. So it's something that you definitely want to keep an eye on for. Sometimes Bitcoin will actually go bullish when it's supposed to go bearish, and vice versa. That does happen, and we may be seeing a smaller, much shorter term example of that right now, this kind of rising wedge that actually turns into a bullish pattern. There would be historical precedent for that, but let's go ahead and keep doing some more TA, see what we can dig up in our oscillators. If we go ahead and look at our oscillators, one thing I do want to point out would be the MACD on all three different major time frames I look at. Down here in the hourly chart, it looks like it's going bullish right now. We saw a bit of a cross right down here, and right now we're seeing that Bitcoin's histogram is in fact turning red over just the last 10 minutes. This has been happening since we started recording this video because Bitcoin's coming down and testing this uptrend of support. If Bitcoin can hold that, then this will probably go green again in an hour or so. And like I said, since I have much faster internet now, this video will be out like 20 minutes after I finish recording it. So Bitcoin will probably look just like this when you see this video, and there probably won't be much of a move. But if Bitcoin does manage to bounce off of this level of support and continue moving to the upside, we'll probably see this start crossing bullish because we've seen the early warning sign. I talk about this on MACD all the time. The change in the histogram is the early warning sign, and then you wait to see what happens with the rest of the market, and then see if the cross happens, and then that's your confirmation. You have the first signal, and then you have confirmation of that signal. The first signal is not the cross on the MACD. It's the change in... The first signal is not the cross on the MACD, it's the histogram change, and that's what you need to be paying attention to. But with that said, let's go ahead and continue looking at the other time frames. There's not a whole lot I want to get into on the hourly chart other than what we already have. One thing on the bearish side that I wanted to point out to you guys was this massive dump in the MACD here on the 4-hourly chart. Very, very bearish. We saw a lot of bullishness here for a little while. We were talking about this, but it's gone quite bearish. Now, this is not something that you're really wanting to see during a rally, and this is why I'm thinking that there's a decent chance that we might actually fall out of this. Keep an eye on this 4-hourly. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but that's something you do want to keep an eye on. And we'll get to a conclusion about what I think Bitcoin's going to do here in a minute. And back out on the daily chart as well, Bitcoin is also bullish and bearish. This is kind of split between our two oscillators down here that I'm paying attention to, MACD, and then a kind of a combination between Stochastic RSI and RSI. MACD is quite bullish. We see that the histogram is still bullish, but as you can see, these are the separation between these two lines is starting to slow down. See the difference in size between this bar and this bar, and then the difference in size between this bar and this bar. Yesterday and today's bar has a bigger separation between the day before that and yesterday's bar, if that made any sense. So what that means is that tomorrow we might actually see a red candlestick here on the histogram, or a red bar, I should say, here on the histogram on the daily MACD, and that would indicate longer term bearishness. One thing I also want to point out would be that yes, MACD is still bullish on the daily chart, but we also see that stochastic RSI is getting into that oversold region, and we may see a cross soon. That doesn't mean a whole lot actually, but it's something you want to keep in mind is that Stoch RSI is in overbought region, so it's more likely to give a bearish signal than a bullish one, because if it starts moving, it's going to start moving to the downside. There's not much room to run to the upside on it anymore. Similar thing is said for RSI. So with all that said, guys, here's my conclusion on Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is ever so slightly more bearish than bullish, and I think what's going to happen is that Bitcoin very well may pull back down here to the 20 EMA and then bounce and keep going bullish. I don't think we're very bearish. I don't think Bitcoin is ready for a major correction. I still think there's a $10,000 Bitcoin in the cards here over the next couple of days, or the next couple of weeks, I should say, but I think there's a decent chance we might have a little bit of a pullback before we actually see it. With that said, that's not much more of a likelihood than an actual bullish breakout. I'd say maybe there's a 60 to 65% chance that Bitcoin breaks bearish here, and maybe the rest of that goes to Bitcoin breaking bullish and actually managing to break out. I'm really going to want to see what Bitcoin does over the rest of the day here if it continues to test this level of resistance, because every time it tests this level of resistance, I get more and more bullish on Bitcoin. We'll see if Bitcoin can bounce here and go up here. We have an uptrend of support right here, so we have a really easy way to confirm Bitcoin bullishness or bearishness. Bitcoin bullishness is it coming up here to $9,400 a fourth, a fifth, a sixth time, or even it breaking it, and Bitcoin bearishness would be it falling below this uptrend of support and starting to head towards that 20 EMA coming up to meet us on the daily chart. That's something you're going to want to keep out for, is that if there is a correction, watch for the 20 EMA. You guys know it's very important. We had kind of a crappy little breakout here. Bitcoin didn't do a whole lot down here, but that's something you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on. So that about wraps it up for the Bitcoin technical analysis. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of TA on Litecoin. There's not a whole lot to discuss on Litecoin that I didn't in yesterday's video, but we'll go ahead and dive on into what there has been going on. Litecoin, as you guys know, was in this much longer term consolidation pattern, which I was keeping an eye on, and I actually had a trade in buying Litecoin at 139, looking for it to break bullish. It did not break bullish, so I never actually executed that trade, and I instead moved that money into a trade on EOS, a swing trade, which I'll show you guys in a second. Bitcoin, excuse me, not Bitcoin. I keep saying that. Bitcoin is not Litecoin, and Litecoin is not Bitcoin. Litecoin's a fork of Bitcoin, but it's not the same cryptocurrency. The block time's different and everything. And what we see here is that Litecoin actually rejected off of this, interestingly enough, because Litecoin was trading against the resistance here. And guys, this is why I tell you, don't trade the market during the consolidation pattern. Put a trade in for the breakout. If I had a bought right here expecting a bullish breakout, I would have lost a couple percentage points. Let's see, I would have lost 4% maybe. Instead of doing that, I can miss out on a 2% rally, wait for Litecoin to break to $139, and then miss out on 2% of the gain, but also be confirmed that the bullish breakout is coming. Because this is a relatively long-term consolidation pattern. It's over the span of a week or so, so there's probably going to be a 5 to 10% move on this if it breaks bullish. I don't mind missing out on 2% so that I actually catch a real rally. Instead of buying during the consolidation pattern and risking this happening and then losing money on a stop loss, instead I can lose out on potential gains and just make nothing but pure profit, because I can put a stop loss right below where I bought. But if you do that in the consolidation pattern, you can't do that. And as we can see here, I didn't have to risk my money because my money was in US dollar tether in a trade waiting for this to break bullish. Instead, Litecoin broke bearish and I said, okay, no big deal. My money's in a stable coin. What do I care? I'll just move on to the next prospect and see what happens. So Litecoin did break bearish here. One thing I do want to point out is that this is actually still in a consolidation pattern. We can redraw a trend line right there. And Litecoin finds itself in a longer term consolidation pattern. This one I'm also going to be keeping an eye on, and this one I am also going to be setting up a trade for as we get closer into the end here. But before we do that, I want to see Litecoin come up here to the resistance and test it, and then I'll put in a trade, maybe 136, 137. I'll keep you guys posted on my Litecoin trade. Like I said, not a whole lot to get into in Litecoin. I'm not going to get into all the oscillators and everything. There's just not a real big point. If you want, I will do a dedicated Litecoin video and a dedicated technical analysis video on altcoins. If I do, give me 2 more altcoins that you'd like to see some technical analysis done on, because I don't want to dedicate a video just to Litecoin. I'll do a video on Litecoin and a couple other technical indicators. I'll do a video on Litecoin and a couple of other charts as well. Anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to discuss on Litecoin, was that Litecoin did, in fact, break bearish out of that, but because I set up the trade correctly, I didn't actually lose any money, nor did I even risk any money, because I hadn't actually bought the Litecoin yet. So let's go ahead and dive on into EOS, and I'll show you what I did with my position here. And this one might also be a losing position, but I'll show you why it's not a big deal either. As we can see, actually the Litecoin one wasn't a losing position, it just was a position I didn't actually get into. One thing I'm looking at here on the EOS chart is this long-term consolidation pattern, and this is a very long-term consolidation pattern. This dates back to December of last year. This uptrend on EOS is looking like it may be broken. What I did is I went ahead and bought a little bit of EOS. I put like a 2% stop loss down here, down around 7,200 Satoshis, or 72,000 Satoshis. I forget exactly where I put it, but about a 2 to 3% stop loss, because I'm expecting that EOS could come up here and test this level of resistance. Right now, it looks like we might actually be breaking bearish out of it. I may go ahead and sell that before I get to the stop loss, because I'm not really liking the way this trade looks. But you know, sometimes that happens. You got to risk 1 or 2% to make 10 or 20% in these markets. Because here's the thing, guys. If my stop loss is 3% and the rally here is 25%, that's like an 8 to 1 risk to reward ratio. If you're in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy and you watch the video on how to plan and execute profitable trades, then you will know what I'm talking about when I talk about risk to reward ratios, and also in the risk to reward video. When you're risking 2% to cover your stop loss, but you're also standing to gain 20%, that's a 10x risk to reward ratio. You should take that trade every single time, even if Bitcoin is 5 times more likely to break to the downside. Because if you factor that in, then it's still a 2 to 1 risk to reward ratio. That's stuff I don't get into in YouTube videos, but it's something I get into in a lot of detail here in CT2A. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to update you with where some of those funds from the Litecoin trade that I was going to make went. They went into EOS, and I'm currently holding quite a bit of EOS, expecting a rally. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'd only be losing like 2%. Not a big deal. There's always other trades that I can make. I do like the look of EOS right now. I would like it to rally. I like what's doing on the daily MACD. I like what's doing with some uptrends of support that I'm not going to get, some uptrending moving averages that I'm not really going to get into in today's video. But that's where I stand on my TA on Bitcoin, and that's where I stand on my TA on EOS and Litecoin. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive on into our news. Tell me in the comment section down below what you thought of the technical analysis today. Do you agree with what I have to say? Do you not agree with what I have to say? Are you in Litecoin and or EOS? And what are you guys trading right now? If I'm missing any really good opportunities on some cryptocurrency trades, let me know in the comment section down below, and I might do some TA on them in the future and give you a shout out. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive on into this news. I'm not going to get too much into this because this is a very broad topic, but Facebook has launched a new cryptocurrency, a new coin called Libra, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, and a wallet app called Calibra. And I always find Facebook very funny because I've done business with Facebook through their Facebook ads. And one time I was trying to get, okay, I'm gonna tell you guys a bit of a story, then we're gonna dive into this news story. I was trying to get customer service for Bitcoin. I was trying to get customer service for Facebook because I couldn't get into my account. And what you do is you have to browse around the internet, and you finally find this phone number that you can call, because Facebook is like a $500 billion company. So I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, they have phone support. Of course they do, right? So I call up this number, and they say, press 1 for customer service. And I press 1, and the phone spits back at me, sorry, we do not offer customer service this time. Sorry, we do not offer phone support at this time. And it says, press 1 for phone support. Sorry, we don't offer phone support. I thought that was so hilarious. I go around and call the number in front of people. I'm like, guys, check this out. This is freaking hilarious. And I click it, and they say, press 1 for phone support. And you click it, and they say, we don't offer phone support. It was very funny. Either way, Facebook is a very large platform, and to see them throwing their name behind the cryptocurrency space is very, very bullish indeed. And like I said, I'm not going to get too much in detail about this because this is more of an adoption story than actually me telling you what Libra is doing. But basically, Facebook has gone ahead and launched a coin that people are going to be able to use in a similar way to the way they use Bitcoin, but in a very, very well adopted space like Facebook. Facebook has a very large footprint. And also, guys, if Facebook does very well with Libra coin, then they can start forcing cryptocurrency on other smaller companies that they do business with, and they can start trying to influence other companies to start accepting either Libra coin or hopefully Bitcoin and some other more mainstream, more well-adopted, more well-developed, more cryptocurrency-esque cryptocurrencies in the future. Hopefully, they can put their weight behind the blockchain industry, behind the cryptocurrency space, and really get this going. Like I said, I'm not going to dive too much into this article. I did just want to point out that this is a very, very big win for adoption on Bitcoin and for adoption on cryptocurrencies. Even though it's not one of our cryptocurrencies, it's another company's cryptocurrency, but still, the sentiment is there. Most people that use this aren't even going to know what a blockchain is. They're not going to know what cryptocurrency is. But when they start actually using Bitcoin, someone can say, "Have you ever used Libra coin?" And they'll say, "Yeah, I use that all the time on Facebook Marketplace." And they'll say, "Okay, good. So you've been using cryptocurrency for the last 3 years." And they're going to be like, "What? I was using that fraudulent Bitcoin thing that's used for money laundering?" And they're going to say, "Yeah, it's not that. You've been using it for 3 years and you didn't even notice it." That's how awesome it is. And it's going to be a big win for adoption, guys. I love reading stories like this. I can go on about that all day, but I'm not going to. But anyway, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap the video up here, but I do want to remind you that there is still that sale running on the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. That is going to be wrapping up on Wednesday, and the last I checked today is Tuesday, so you have exactly 24 hours before this sale wraps up. I'll wrap it up just a little bit after the video goes up tomorrow. So if you guys are looking to learn how to read these markets, how to trade these markets, how to analyze these markets, and like I said, said, most importantly, profit in these markets through your trading and your investing, the best place to do it is the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy here in the Bitcoin Academy, guys. I highly recommend that you invest in your education before you invest in any cryptocurrencies. It is a terrible idea, in my opinion, to go and start throwing money at a market when you don't know how to trade that market. Either paper trade the market for a year and wait for the market to be halfway done with a bull market, or start learning now. Instead of spending a year trying to learn all this stuff on your own through paper trading and watching YouTube videos and reading Investopedia and reading books, instead of doing all that, you can get all of that information put into one course right here where you can go through it. There's about 9 hours of content. It typically takes people a week or two, maybe 3 weeks to go through all this, digest all the content, and start seeing real results in their technical analysis. And when you do, you'll be very glad that you did, because the $159 you spend on this course after the coupon code June 2019 in the description down below, after you spend that money, that is going to probably end up making you back a lot more than that if you implement the strategies that are in this course. Guys, there's a 14-day money-back refund guarantee if you watch less than 30% of the course material, because let's be honest, if you watch the entire course then you want a refund, that wouldn't be fair to me. But if you watch less than 30% of the course material, I think that's very fair. You should know if you want the course by then or not. Within the first 14 days, shoot me an email. I will give you a full refund, no questions asked. It's really not a big deal. I hit a refund button. I put $159. I hit refund, and it shows up back in your bank account in a couple days. You will get all your money back. It's not that big a deal. So if you guys want to invest in your future, and so you can actually start profitably investing and trading in the Bitcoin market, I do highly recommend you check out the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. Link at the first and the top of the description. Use the coupon code June 2019 to get $40 off at checkout. But anyway, guys, I think that is enough shameless self-promo for this one video. I do want to mention that I am moved into my new house, which is why it's a little bit echoey in this room, and I'm going to probably have to do something about that. I didn't realize it was that echoey until I sat down to start recording today. Anyway, guys, my upload speed is much, much faster, so do expect some live streams. There might even be one today. Keep an eye out for that. Anyway, guys, like I said, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching, as always, guys, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.